Hey, what's up guys? Garden here, coming to you guys with a deck profile on my updated Gold Paladin Ezel deck. Yeah, it's been a while since Ezel's been on the channel, hasn't it? I was going to do a profile for this a couple of weeks ago, but unfortunately I did get a bit ill a few weeks ago, and yeah, my throat was acting up and I just didn't feel well to do any videos, so left it until now. I do feel a bit better. And yeah, overall, I'm quite happy with the Ezel deck. The quality of the support that we got was quite good, even though the amount of cards that we got was quite low. But it's actually quite good. So yeah, pretty happy with the deck. So we'll go into the deck and I'll show you guys what I'm playing. So to start with, we have the grade 3s. We're going to be starting with Blazing Lion Platina Ezel. So yep, it's finally returned, and it's a lot different to the Ultimate Break that we had back in the day. But yeah, it's a pretty cool skill. So for Counter Blast, it turns the first drive check into you check the top two, place one of them into the trigger zone and the other one onto your rearguard circle. This is actually pretty nice because it gives you more of a chance to see a trigger pop up, but it's even nicer when you get the rest of the skill off where it says, if you have two more grade 3s in your soul, this also applies to your second drive check as well. So the really cool thing with this card is that it gives you more chances to see triggers, and then for you to place them into the trigger zone, whilst also generating you the extra multi-attacks as well onto your rearguard circle. So with saying that, I kind of feel like this card is more of a late game card, so that's why I'm only playing 2 of it. And I also would recommend only using this when your opponent's at 5 damage, because when your opponent's at 4, you might as well just pressure them with Raven, because with the extra crit, you're still applying lethal to them and risking them losing the game. So I would say only running Raven until they get to the point of 5 damage, and then you can start pressuring them with Platina Ezel, because the only thing you care about at that point is getting one attack through. So you might as well focus on the multi-attack aspect that Platina provides, with the higher chances of getting those triggers going as well. So yeah, and that really helps you as well if you get a front trigger from it as well. So that's really good. So 2 copies of Platina is what I decided to go with there. I feel like that's good enough. And then for the rest of the grade 3s, we are going to be playing, of course, the 4 Raven-haired Ezel. Yeah, pretty much have to play these at 4. But also the main aspect of this, not just with the crit and the Sentinel Restrict, is also just to take away the minus drive check that Ezel's going to get from the Superior Ride. It's really good if you're able to not only get the XL2 marker from Blond Ezel, giving you more of a chance to dig through the deck to see your Raven-haired Ezels, but also that one counterblast that you might have is going to give you the superior ride that you need to take away that negative drive check. So that's really, really nice. But yeah, Raven is essentially going to be the main Vanguard for most of your game, just because of the crit and the Sentinel restriction. So yeah, we've got 4 copies of Raven. And then, of course, we have the main man himself, 4 copies of Blond Ezel. Yeah, pretty much need to play 4. It's got its own superior ride skill. So the extra copies of it after you got the first one off, you can just use these as either discard fodder or extra rearguard attacks, essentially. You're not really planning on re-riding into these. You kind of just want to ride into Raven, pressure with it. Ride other Ravens if you see them before the Platina turn. But yeah, once you get to Platina and your opponent's all set up to get multi-attacked, that's when you want to go into the Platina. So 4 copies of Blond Ezel. So nice to see a return to Blond Ezel on the channel as well. So going into the grade 2s, we have the 4 copies of Beaumains. So of course, Beaumains and Wonder Ezel, which comes up next, are your superior ride engines. So the main thing I actually want to say about Beaumains is not just the superior ride thing, but it's also the synergy that it has with one of the new cards that we got called Hoel. So Hoel and Kahedin, these are the 2 other new cards that we got from the set, Ariel Stead Liberation. But one thing with Hoel that I noticed is that we'll go through his skills. So it says your other unit in the same column as this unit that was placed this turn gets 5,000 power. And then if Kahedin is on your van or rear, it gets 10,000 instead. So of course that makes you want to play both of these together. Yes, that is true. But the one thing you need to realize is that just because you don't have the other one doesn't mean both of these cards are not good anymore. Howell's actually not too bad with Beaumains, because Beaumains getting the extra 3,000 power from his skill can actually make some good columns with Hoel, even if you don't have Kahedin, because 8 and 9 is going to make 17, and then the extra 3 is going to make it 20, and the extra 5 from Hoel will make it 25,000. So the extra 3 is actually making that column a lot better against the Force clans. So If you do have Kahedin on the field, you're going to make that 30,000 instead, which is of course even better now because you're passing the 28k threshold. So the 3k power that Beaumains gets from his own skill actually makes a difference between your column numbers. So yeah, he's not just a superior ride piece. He actually works quite nicely with the Hoel to make good columns outside of the superior ride. So that's actually pretty cool. So yeah, of course you're going to play 4 Beaumains anyway, but it's quite nice to know that it does synergize with the new support that we got in the set. So Kahedin and Hoel don't necessarily need each other to make themselves the best they can. I mean, of course they do, but you can use other stuff in the deck to also benefit from how they work. So the next good example about that is with Wonder Ezel. Because Wonder Ezel, as we all know, is the other superior ride engine. But also the skill that it has when it says, when placed, you may call a unit from your hand. So this actually makes Kahedin really good on his own, because the main thing you care about when you're at the late stage of the game is that you can call the Wonder Ezel, and then you can call Kahedin's, and then these two can kind of work with each other. Because, like I say, when you are on Platina, the only thing you care about is having extra multi-attacks to throw at the opponent when they're at 5 damage. So these two working with each other actually benefits that strategy, since, I mean, yeah, sure, you don't have the Hoel on the board. Like, if you don't have the Hoel on the board, it's still okay, because you're still getting a 1-for-1 exchange with Kahedin's ability, being a counterblast when placed, discard a card, look at the top 3, call one to rear, and then if you have Hoel, you get a draw card. So that's basically what it does. But even if you don't get the draw for the plus, you're still breaking even. And that's still good enough because you're still getting the extra multi-attacks off on the Platina Ezel turn, which I still think is really, really good. So, yeah. Although Beaumains and Wonder Ezel are your superior ride engines, they do have utility outside of that, which I do find really cool. So, of course, we've got the 4 Wonder Ezel there. Don't really need to explain Beaumains and Wonder Ezel. We know why we're playing them, but the utility that they provide along with Kahedin and Hoel is actually really, really nice. So that's really cool. So, of course, we are playing the 4 copies of Kahedin. Now, the main thing with Kahedin is that I was actually thinking about playing only 3 of him, and the camera does not want to focus for some reason. Bear with me. There we go. So, yeah, Kahedin... he does give you a plus with his skill, but just because you can't get the plus at times if you don't have Howell on your field, it doesn't mean that he's bad. You can still utilize him in the late game with your Wonder Ezels and your Platina for those multi-attacks. So I did decide to out and go for 4 copies of him, just because it gives me more of a chance to see him with Hoel to make them both benefit from each other the best they can, but it also gives me more ability to use him with Wonder Ezel for the extra attacks. So that's that. So those are the grade 2s. So for grade 1s, we of course have the 4 Hoel. Already explained why I'm playing them, for the different reasons. But yeah, you kind of don't just want to play 4 of it. It is really good though. The extra 10k that you get from his skill is just bonkers. You're essentially just getting an Excel 1 slapped into a column that you can boost with now, which is insane. But the main aspect of the card is that it just helps you bypass any defensive triggers that your opponent gets, which was one of the problems I was having before. With the whole XL2 change to the deck. Yeah, sure, I got draws, but my rear guard columns are just really small pokes, and a damage trigger more times than often really hurt. So then I would have to rely on the drive checks to help me power up my weaker rear guard columns to get them bypass that defensive trigger. So Hoel really helps out with that, because I don't need to rely on the drive checks as much, since I'm getting the power passively through him instead. So that's really, really nice. So moving on, we have the 4 copies Howell, of course. Don't really need to explain why, with the superior ride engine, of course, with Wonder Ezel. But the one thing about Howell that I kind of get annoyed at is that I don't like the fact that he's a counterblast, because more times than often, I'm using that either for my Raven-haired, I'm using it for either Platina or Kahedin. I will at times use it. It's not completely useless, but it does generate you that multi-attack for the late game scenarios. But the main aspect that I use him for is the superior ride. I hardly use his skill, if at any, because I'm mainly prioritizing my counterblast towards other cards like the Platina, the Raven, and the Kahedin. So yeah, but I have used his skill maybe once or twice, which have helped me in the late game scenario. So he's still good, but you're still going to run him regardless anyway, because of Wonder Ezel. So that's that. And then for the final grade 1s, I'm playing 2 copies of Dindrane. Now, this was the struggle I was having, and I actually want to give a shout out here to Draw the Trigger. I saw the Gold Paladin deck profile that you guys posted recently, And I actually really agree with this lineup. 2 Dindrane and 1 Gareth. For the longest time, I've been playing 2 Gareth because I was always afraid of my 1 Gareth being either damage checked or, just not being available. Like, if I end up riding it or something, I just don't want to be caught like that. But I think the likelihood of that happening is just so low, it's worth taking the risk. Because I would prefer having the 2 Dindrane available for the counter charge mainly, because I do tend to use counterblasts every turn, more times than often. So I want to have access to that counter charge just in case I'm also being damage denied, or just my opponent's trying to control how much counterblast I have available. But also the draw can also come in if I don't need the counter charge, so that's really nice there. So it does give me the ability to have early game draw if I want to do that, or just help refilling the hand later on. So yeah, I think the 1 Gareth is fine with the 2 Dindrane because I want to have 2 copies of the counter charger to give myself a little bit more control there with my damage. And I think the 1 Gareth is fine because really the only 2 opportunities that this card has, the chance of like screwing you over is if you either ride it or if you damage check it. But after you get past the grade 1 turn, you only really care about it on the grade 2 turn because Beaumains is going to get it from the deck, and then you're going to use it for the Superior Ride, and that's it. But then even still, if you don't use the Beaumains Superior Ride with Gareth, you're going to be using the Wonder Ezel Superior Ride with Howell. So then it's like, do you really need multiple copies of this? I don't think so. I think just the one of it's fine because having multiples of it with such a vanilla skill just doesn't feel good anymore. So I feel more comfortable running the 1. So again, shout out to Draw the Trigger. I do agree with that lineup with the 2 Dindrane and the 1 Gareth. Really big help there. Made me feel a lot safer seeing that there was someone else thinking about that as well. So that's really cool. So yeah, we have the grade 0s last. Of course, we have Kyrph, our starter. Going to be playing him, of course, because we need it for Blond Ezel's skill. And also Kyrph is just cool anyway. Now for triggers, this is interesting because I was bouncing back and forth with this. I decided to go with 5 crit. Now, why did I do 5 crit? It's because of the behavior my front triggers have been having. That's why. So initially I was playing 6 crit and 2 front. But a lot of the time, I would see that one of my front triggers would show up in the early game. And that was really annoying because it really annoys me knowing that I've only got 1 front trigger in my deck now for Platina Ezel to potentially abuse, and I don't like that. Now, yeah, I know that running more copies of fronts mean I might see more of them in the early game, but the idea is that if I see one of my front triggers now, I feel a bit better knowing that there's at least 2 in my deck still. And I mean, this doesn't happen all the time, but having 3 fronts in my deck still on the Platina Ezel turn just feels great because that means all of my multi-attacks are going to be huge and really difficult to deal with. So yeah, but I do also feel like you need to play a higher than normal crit count for the Raven-haired Ezel just to make that crit even more pressurizing, So I do feel like 4 isn't enough for the crit, but 5 is good enough for me because I also wanted to play the 3 front. So that's what I decided on. Tell me guys what you think about that, but I've seen different ratios of like 6 and 2 or like 4 and 4. It's completely up to you, but I don't particularly like the idea of going heavy on the fronts though, because they're only really applicable in the late game with Platina because you have more of a chance of getting them off at that point. So yeah, so that's what I decided with there. And then finally we have the draw trigger of Mark for the draw PG. Yeah, good old Mark playing 4 of those. And then we have the 4 heal trigger with Elixir Sommelier. Yeah, always love that artwork. But yeah, that's going to be it for the deck. So that's pretty much it. Now, the deck itself is really cool. I quite like it. Now, this will be changing with the Shin series. We are going to be getting the Agravane, I think it's called. So it'll be interesting to see how that turns out in terms of the strategy. I've seen cards like Liberate of the Flute return, so that's quite cool as well, because I used to be a really huge Liberator fan. And yeah, overall, I'm looking forward to see how goals change in the future. But at the minute, it's been serving me well. And Axel 2 has been a great addition to the clan overall as well. So yeah, that's going to be it, guys. I hope you guys enjoyed the deck. Look forward to more videos on the channel over the past coming months. I've got a couple of ideas, but we'll see where it goes. Might take a bit of a chill break until then. But yeah, like always, thank you guys very much for watching. Hope you guys enjoyed, and I will catch you guys in the next video. Guardian, signing out.